What if I told you that two completely different players, at completely different stages of their careers, just made the exact same move before one of the biggest clay tournaments of the season, and it might not be a coincidence? Because right now, heading into Madrid, something very interesting is happening behind the scenes. And it involved Aryna Sabalenka, Alexandra Eala, and a name that most casual fans still aren't paying enough attention to. But trust me, by the end of this video, you might see the Madrid Open in a completely different way. Let's break this down. The clay season is always where things start to shift in women's tennis. Hardcore dominance doesn't always translate. Confidence gets tested, and suddenly new names start creeping into the conversation. And this year, all eyes are on Madrid, not just because it's a massive event, but because it's the first real checkpoint after Miami where we get to see who's actually ready to make a serious clay court run. Now, coming into this tournament, Sabalenka is riding high. She just came off a big title run at the Miami Open, and she's looking like the most complete player on tour right now. Power, confidence, and that aggressive baseline game that just overwhelms opponents. And let's be honest, when Sabalenka is locked in, there are very few players who can live with her pace. But here's the thing people often overlook. Clay is not her natural playground. Yes, she's had success here before, even winning Madrid multiple times. But clay demands patience. It forces longer rallies. It exposes decision-making under pressure. So even for a world number one, preparation matters a lot more than people think. Now shift the focus to Eala. Completely different situation. She's still building her identity on the WTA Tour, still figuring out where she belongs among the elite. Her recent results haven't exactly set the world on fire. Linz, Stuttgart, solid efforts, but nothing that screams breakthrough moment. But that's exactly why Madrid is so important for her. This is where momentum can change. This is where a single deep run can flip the narrative from promising talent to serious contender. And here's where things get interesting, because both Sabalenka and Eala, despite being in totally different lanes, just made the same preparation choice. They both train with Iva Jovic. Now, at first glance, you might think, okay, so what? Players share practice partners all the time, but this isn't random. Not even close. Jovic is not just another hitting partner floating around the practice courts. She's one of the fastest rising young names quietly making her way into the WTA conversation. And in 2026, she's already been in some very interesting situations. She teamed up with Eala earlier this year at the ASB Classic, and they didn't just anticipate, they made a deep run to the semifinals. That tells you something. Chemistry, rhythm, understanding each other's games. That kind of connection doesn't just disappear. So when Eala steps onto practice court with Jovic again in Madrid, it's not just training. It's comfort. It's familiarity. It's a controlled environment where she can sharpen her strengths without second-guessing herself. Now flip that over to Sabalenka. Her connection with Jovic comes from a completely different place. They faced each other at the Australian Open earlier this year. Quarterfinals, big stage, pressure moment. And Sabalenka handled it in straight sets. But matches like that leave an impression. You learn how your opponent moves, how they defend, how they respond to power. So when Sabalenka chooses to practice with Jovic now, it's not random hitting. It's strategic. She's using a player who already knows her game and whose game she understands in return. That creates a very specific kind of practice intensity. It's almost like rehearsing scenarios you've already experienced, but with the chance to refine them. And this is where I think things get really interesting. Because when two players like Sabalenka and Eala, who are not connected in ranking, not connected in rivalry, suddenly intersect through the same practice partner, you have to ask the question, is this just coincidence? Or is this one of those subtle patterns that actually tells us something about how players are preparing behind the scenes? Because here's the reality. Practice choices matter. A lot. We don't see it on TV. We don't track it in stats. But the quality of your preparation can directly influence how you perform when the pressure hits. And Jovic seems to be right in the middle of that preparation ecosystem right now. Almost like a bridge between different tiers of the tour. Now let's talk about the draw. Because this is where things start to take shape. Sabalenka, as expected, gets a bye into the second round. That's the advantage of being at the top. Extra rest, extra time to adjust to conditions. And she'll be waiting for the winner between Peyton Stearns and Lois Boisson. On paper, that's manageable. But Madrid is tricky. Altitude changes the ball's speed. Clay changes the movement. And suddenly matches that look straightforward can become unpredictable. And her section of the draw is not exactly easy. You've got Naomi Osaka lurking there. You've got Marie Bouzkova, Jacqueline Christian, players who can disrupt rhythm, extend rallies, and force Sabalenka to play one extra ball, which is exactly what Clay demands. So even though she's a favorite, this is not a walk in the park. Now look at Eala. Her situation is almost the opposite. No bye, no cushion. She starts in the first round against a qualifier, and that's dangerous in its own way, because qualifiers come in with momentum. They've already adapted to the courts. They've already played matches. So for Eala, there's no easing into the tournament. It's immediate pressure. Win or you're out. And if she gets through that, she likely faces Elise Mertens in the second round. That's a serious test. Mertens is experienced, consistent, and knows how to navigate early rounds without giving much away. But here's the thing. This is exactly the kind of matchup that can define a player's trajectory. Because if Eala finds a way through that, suddenly the draw opens up. Suddenly confidence builds. Suddenly people start paying attention. And that brings me back to the practice sessions. Because when you see Eala working with someone like Jovic, someone she already trusts, it suggests she's trying to stabilize her game, reduce variables, control what she can control. While Sabalenka, on the other hand, might be using the same player for a completely different reason, sharpening aggression, testing patterns, fine-tuning timing on clay. Same partner, different purpose. And that contrast is fascinating. Now here's the bigger question. What does this actually mean for Madrid? Because if you look at recent seasons, the players who go deep here are not always the obvious ones. Madrid has a way of producing unexpected runs, breakthrough moments, and sometimes those moments are built in practice days that nobody talks about. So could this shared preparation detail actually hint at something bigger? Could Jovic end up being one of those hidden influences behind multiple storylines in this tournament? It sounds crazy, but tennis is full of these subtle connections that only make sense in hindsight. Now let me throw this out there. If Sabalenka dominates again, people will say it's expected. World number one. Strong form, nothing surprising. But if she struggles, if matches get tight, if the rhythm isn't there, then suddenly every detail becomes important. Even something as small as who she practiced with. And on the flip side, if Eala makes a run, if she beats Mertens, if she pushes into the later rounds, then we're going to look back at this preparation phase and say, okay, maybe this wasn't random at all. Maybe this was part of a deliberate build-up. Because young players don't just break through by accident. There's usually a pattern, a shift, a moment where things start to click. And sometimes that moment starts quietly on a practice court. So keep an eye on this. Not just the matches, not just the scores, but the story underneath. Because Sabalenka is chasing dominance. Eala is chasing validation. And somehow, both paths just cross in the same place, with the same player, right before one of the biggest clay tournaments of the year. And that's not something I'm ignoring. Now I want to hear from you. Is this just a coincidence? Or do you think shared practice partners like this actually influence results more than we realize? And more importantly, who do you think has the bigger Madrid run ahead? Sabalenka continuing her dominance, or Eala surprising everyone? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one could get very interesting very quickly. And if you enjoy these deeper tennis breakdowns, stick around. Because when the matches start, we'll see exactly how much these small details really mattered. TennisIQ is where real tennis fans go beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories, the patterns, and the moments that actually shape the game.